that's shared on the channel. Abhi, hello everyone, a very warm welcome to People Matters webinar on Forging Middle East New Talent Strategy Insights from SHRPA State of the HR Industry 2025 Middle East Report. Now, what we are seeing and observe in the market is that 42% of HR and business leaders in the Middle East state total workforce planning is one of the top challenges impacting business outcomes. As GCC economies accelerate diversification and digital transformation, HR leaders are being called to rethink talent strategies that balance national skilling priorities, organizational demand for AI ready talent, and also evolving workforce expectations. So, through today's webinar, we are going to discuss around all of these areas while we also share some of the key findings from our newly launched People Matters Sherpa State of the HR Industry 2025 Middle East report, which is going to shape the region's next era of growth. Now, before we delve deeper into it and tell you about our expert panelist, I would love to know a little bit about you. Feel free to put in the chat box where all you all are joining us from. Your city, country, would love to hear from you. All right, great. Now, to those of you who have recently joined us, a very warm welcome again on this webinar, and we are looking forward to a very constructive conversation with all of you. Now, for this conversation, we are honored to have today with us expert panelists from the Middle East region itself joining us for this important conversation. And the first in the row is Mr. Surhit Chaudhary, Co-Chief People and Culture Officer at Al Ghurair.
Thank you very much for having me. Really honored to be part of this panel.
Wonderful. A very warm welcome, Surhit. Glad to have you here with us today.
Thank you.
A little bit about Surhit for our audience. He's a seasoned CHRO with deep expertise in people strategy, transformation, rewards, performance management, and org development in the Middle East. And currently, he's serving as a co-chief people officer at Al Ghurair, overseeing a comprehensive HR strategy mandate for an organization employing over 28,000 people across multiple countries and sectors. Again, so glad to have you with us, Surhit.
Thank you very much.
Great. And our second panelist we have is Inshara Bawazir, Country Head of HR Oman at Standard Chartered Bank. Hi, Inshara. How are you doing? Are you able to hear us, Inshara? All right, a little bit about Inshara for our listeners. With over 13 years of experience in the banking sector, Inshara is currently the head of human resources as well as a member of country management team at Standard Chartered Oman. In this role, she leads the HR strategy and operations to support the bank's mission of driving commerce and prosperity through its unique diversity by fostering a culture of inclusion, performance, and innovation. A very warm welcome to you, Inshara. I know you're facing a bit of a trouble in the audio. Please do join us. Please do try to log out and join us again. All right. In the meanwhile, let me introduce to you our third panelist, and his name is Ali Reza Mukhtar, a transformation strategist and versatile HR leader in Middle
Yeah,
East.
hi, Jyoshna. It's a pleasure to be here with you and with everyone.
Wonderful, Ali. How are you doing today?
Great, wonderful.
Great. So glad to have you on the panel today. A bit about Ali for our listeners. He's a visionary, results driven HR leader with over 15 years of distinguished experience in architecting and executing large scale org transformation. His expertise extends across critical facets of modern business, including OD, strategic talent management, and digital transformation. And interestingly, he's also been recognized as a Global 200 Power Leader for 2025 by White Page International. Congratulations again, and welcome to the webinar, Ali.
Thanks so much.
Great. Inshara, are you able to hear us now?
Yes, I can. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your patience.
No worries. Glad we are able to figure that out and hear your lovely voice. Awesome. So now that we have the three of you and we have our audience set as well, without further ado, I would like to delve deeper into the conversation. Can we have our research presentation, please, on the screen? All right. While we start on this, I wanted to give a little bit of context on what Sherpa research study, a flagship research study from People Matters, is all about. It's a second edition in a row where we map out the whole HR landscape, this 360-degree view from HR leaders to HR tech partners to employees and investors alike. And we try to see how is the HR industry shaping up by figuring out what are the business implications impacting the HR, what is the HR effectiveness in managing that change and that those factors influencing them, and how is technology and transformational initiatives enabling it, right? So while we give our audience a sneak peek view of the research that we are launching today, I wanted to start with the first question here about talent shifts. When we talk about labor market shifts here, what we have seen is these have jumped 3 points since 2024 to become a key factor in shaping the business outlook. That this actually is a part of the top three factors contributing to the business outlook. Now, my question to all of you here is, and I would love to hear everyone's point of view, is are HR leaders in the Middle East prepared to balance developing the local talent while accessing the foreign talent? What are some of the key market shifts in particular that are emerging in 2026, and how are leaders preparing for those changes? And Shara would like to start with you.
Sure. Thank you very much. I think in terms of the labor market shift that was also highlighted in the reports, what we've seen is that right now the talent is really driven by nationalism agenda. There's been a lot of demographic changes and rapid, wants for skills. HR leaders across Middle East are more aware about these dynamics than the previous years. However, from what we have seen is that the readiness is still uneven and often depends on how mature the organization workflow planning and development frameworks are. And there is no longer balance between choosing between local and foreign talent. Right now, it's all about ensuring that the right capability is there at the right time. When we look at the local talent strategies, we're looking at it from the long term and development. We're focusing on, education to employment pathways, accelerated learning, and structured career progression. And at the same time, when we're looking at expatriate talent, they play a key role in filling in a niche or, for example, in emerging skill gaps, transferring knowledge, and also supporting the transformation agenda. For example, in the banking sector, Omanization expectations requires us now to hire just beyond the ratios. So it's not about the quota anymore. It's really about focusing and building depth and sustainability and developing our talent.
Great. What are your thoughts on it, Surhit?
No, thank you. I resonate a lot of thoughts which Inshara already said. I think in the Middle East, we're in a unique position where we're extremely talent rich, given our positioning within the overall geographic landscape, our access to talent from the West, our access to talent from the East. I think that's one of the key benefits that we have in the Middle East, that we are extremely talent rich. Having said that, we are talent poor as well for some of the niche and unique skills that really are driving the conversation forward or driving the overall transformation agenda forward in most of the organizations. Um, as Inshara rightly mentioned, obviously nationalization continues to be front and center for a lot of our agenda, but also along with it, kind of keeping change with the rapid progression that's happening in the overall, footprint and the future of work, bringing in the right skills which can enable and not just deploy forward-looking technologies, but Middle East is repositioning itself to be the actual epicenter of creating these technologies which are driving the future trends. Having said that, obviously there are talent imbalances. There is a talent surplus which exists in multiple skill sets. But at the same time, how do we really reposition ourselves where we have organic development of talent internally, um, to especially catering to more of the future skills requirement, especially around AI and the other areas. So it is a complex challenge to deal with, which is obviously keeping most of the senior leaders across the region awake. Said that, I would just like to summarize that it's not really different from any other region or geography across the globe, but very specifically, I think it's this imbalance between talent availability and talent requirement and the skills availability, which is causing some sense of which is obviously throwing some challenges at us to kind of look at.
Right. Thank you so much, Surid. And I think I agree with you and Inchera on that. We've observed that there are specific skill clusters emerging in different parts of the world, and that's creating the need for creating a balance between hiring the local and hiring and developing the local talent versus also looking out for a distributed workforce. That's also likely to push up the cost of growth for organizations. What is your view on that, Ali?
Sorry, come again the question. There was a voice disruption. Sorry.
Yeah, I was saying that due to the reasons and the key talent shifts that Inshara and Surhid mentioned, that may also likely to push up the cost of growth for organizations. What are your views on those talent shifts?
Yeah, see, this is a very interesting perspective, especially now in this time when especially in GCC region there are um, different visions in place, like in Saudi Arabia Vision 2030, and similarly we have in Oman and UAE. So there, I mean, the whole idea or whole, let's say, the basis of this vision is that to shift from an petro economy to a diversified economy there. So technology and then the other sectors are also given equal, more importance than it was like that. So in this context, gone are the days when the workforce planning was more like a binary approach there, like we have only locals or we have only foreigners there. I think the how I see this, I mean, especially with related to the cost of the organization, is that they need to make this localization as a strategic imperative rather than just as a burden for them. But don't
Mhm.
consider it as a burden. So burden means you just hit the number and then khalas, you don't focus more on the long term approach there, as Inshira mentioned that here. And at the same time, there are certain areas where you have the skill gap, where you can bring out the foreign talent to take those roles and help the local talent as well to cultivate them so that they can also advance themselves in this in this requirements there. So if I put it down to a very practical level, I usually recommend in this case is that have a skill audit in your organization. Try to find top 50 areas or top 50, let's say, position where you can work on the, you can focus on the local talents, other 50 top areas where you will be focusing more on the foreign talents, and there are other 50 top areas where you can say we can have some transitions, that we can have some locals going. So in this way you can strategize your workforce in a way that would also help you to foster the localization objectives, and at the same time also to grow your business.
Right, right. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm glad you brought up the topic of workforce planning as well. That was a great segue to our next question and what we observed as a finding in our next slide. When we try to dig deeper and actually see what are the key challenges, how are these shifts actually impacting HR and putting forth new challenges, we actually saw that workforce planning, talent experience, and productivity stood out as some of the biggest challenges impacting the business outcomes in 2025 and 26 in the next 12 to 18 months. So you spoke about skill audit. Apart from that, I would love to understand. I'm curious to know what are some of the other strategies that HR and people leaders using to address these issues across the Middle East. Surit, would love to know from you.
No, thank you. And I think, I mean, skill audit is obviously one of the classical approaches that we can really take to look at it. I would take a slightly different view. I think organizations in this day and age need to step away from a very structured approach at looking at skills and really go deep and evaluate their business strategy, evaluate the long term implications of their business strategy on the skill requirements for the future, overlay it with the future of work. That's front and center. I mean, if we look at the World Economic Forum and some of the jobs and skills which is being reported, which will disappear over the next 3 days, 3 years, this would really throw some very shocking insights into jobs which we once considered were absolutely front and center of key skill requirements probably a couple of years ago. We are now considering will disappear over the next few years. So I think really going back to the organization's strategy, looking at the business strategy really hard, looking at what is the requirement that we would need to enable that strategy, overlaying it with what is the trend that's kind of taking over in terms of the advancements in technology. How does that impact it, and what is the residual area where a human intervention is required? Jobs are evolving fast, roles are evolving fast. A classical role of an HR manager as it existed probably a year ago or 2 years ago has completely changed even today. So if we look at it, we really need to look at and identify what are those specific skills which a human led, which are essentially human led, and really go and identify and try and either develop that skill internally within the organization or ensure that we have the right ability to source those skills within the region, outside the region, or develop those skills within the region. So that's my quick take on it.
Right. Thank you so much, Surit. And I think, and I'd love to tell, I think you all and and our audience, and give a little bit of comparative analysis there in our global findings, in our Southeast Asia findings. The top three talent challenges that have actually come out is building talent excellence, which is already there, then leadership development, and AI and emerging technology. Now, I'm actually glad to see that Middle East is also proactively thinking about total workforce planning, and that is one of the biggest challenges that has come for the region. And they are proactively thinking of, addressing that through a dynamic workforce architecture that they want to curate out of meeting human skill demands. Inshara, I would love to hear your thoughts on it.
My thoughts on it are very similar to my colleagues. I mean, in the short term, companies should really focus on identifying critical roles and assessing the immediate gaps, redeploying or upskilling the existing talent before resorting to external hiring. So you've already mentioned it as well, but it's very key. Strengthening the manager capability, the leadership capability is very, very important because productivity is often influenced by the leadership effectiveness size, clarity of expectations, and also workload prioritization rather than the workforce size. I believe in the long term, organization must also move towards, which is a lot of companies are doing right now, skill-based workforce planning. It's no longer having succession plan where it is vertical. We're also looking at from a horizontal level as well. So we're like this also will include building internal talent marketplaces, embedding continuous learning. Now continuous learning needs to be in your day-to-day activity. It's not longer like training in silos. Also like aligning the workforce plan, which Sarit had also mentioned with the business strategy, because without that you're literally working on like it will become parallel. So, digital transformation and national workforce agenda is very critical when you look at the business strategy. Also, I would also like to add that right now, workforce planning must also anticipate, depending on the sectors, the regulatory evolution, and the heightened risk and the compliance requirement. So, my colleague mentioned like before, the HR role has evolved. So we are right now also undertaking like compliance and governance. That's something that is also embedded into our role. So we're adapting to it as we go along. So that is pretty much my take into it as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Great, thank you so much. I would love to touch upon a couple of aspects that you both have mentioned here and also talk about the HR's effectiveness in now navigating in these challenges. But before I move forward, I wanted to let our audience know that what you're seeing on our screen is just a snippet of the report. You can download the comprehensive report through the link that is being shared in the comments. Also, while we are at it and you're listening into our experts, if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the comments chat box, and we will be more than happy to address those in the conversation today. All right. I think moving forward, like I said, I would love to touch upon the HR's effectiveness in navigating some of those challenges. And Shara, like you rightly highlighted on the leadership development, we talked about workforce planning. What we have observed, and going back a little bit from a journey that HR has covered, from paper-based talent management to now doing it with AI-led technology platforms, HR has actually come a long way. And it needed a lot of change management across the board to kind of adopt and that change. And HR leaders are the experts in change management in the organizations. They orchestrate that. So we wanted to understand how effective they are in navigating the ongoing and frequent changes that are happening. Interestingly, if you see the next slide, it says that HR is really good at building the intent in the organization of the change readiness. But when it comes to building the AI ready change execution, they are struggling. Can we have the next slide, please, Vinita? Some of the areas you see on the left hand side, they themselves, HR and business leaders, have displayed great amount of satisfaction in the Middle East in 2024 as well as 2025 as well. Whereas if you see on the right hand side, the red highlighted areas, they are mostly related to AI led change execution by the mid managers and leaders, where our execution is failing. Now, what is happening when we went deeper into it? If we go to the next slide, what we observed is that while only 95% of the leaders in the region say they are change ready, only 29% of them are actually AI ready. On to the next slide, please. So when we see that, we observed that our data shows lack of internal skills is actually one of the key reasons in building the AI readiness for the organizations, and how organizations are treating change readiness and AI readiness as two separate things. So I would love to hear your view on it, Ali.
Great. Yes, I was reading this report and I found this interesting, gap. I would say that organizations, they feel like they are confident when it's come to any other change. So when it's come to the AI, in an AI area, the confidence, level is really pretty much low. Um, I take it, the AI as an area where the, change management requirement probably is way different than the others because of certain sensitivity we have here in AI, especially when it's come to data privacy, data security. Companies are not that much comfortable using the AI. And I have seen like some companies, they even block the ChatGPT and generative AI open source for that very reason there.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, we have also seen that company, they started building up their own, solutions. That's
Yeah.
internal AI solutions there to tackle that problem. However, uh, my take is that we still lack on so many areas in terms of mindset shift, in terms of the cultural change aspect of the organization, and it requires a different way of taking it further. For example, if you want to adopt this AI in your organization, you need to give some psychological safety to your employees, where they can try, they can test, and they can improve. So AI experiment lab, for example, is going to be very helpful in this area if you're going to put that here. There is a need to have certain AI champion network in the organization who can take the AI thing further and try to implement or encourage or motivate people in different business sectors to do that here. So if I put it in to summarize this, I would say that probably our traditional or the classical change management approach might not work. We need to think differently, when it's come to the AI.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for raising such appropriate concerns here, Ali. I think what we have also heard is there's a lot of AI anxiety. So I think you shared a valid point on building psychological safety around the job security aspect as well, and around the data security concerns, ethical and responsible use of AI concerns. There's a lot of hesitance in adopting AI as well. So those are some of the things that we have observed as well. So Riz, I'm curious to understand from you. Are there any other concerns that you are observing? That, and how can HR leaders really develop the culture of AI readiness across the organization levers, like Ali mentioned, through skills and mindset shifts?
Yeah, so a couple of things there. I'm really interested to know the 29% of organizations who think they've fully adopted AI, because the landscape is evolving so fast. I would really find that quite a risky statement to say they've fully adopted AI and there's nothing more to do. On the
Mhm.
contrary, I think organizations which are vulnerable enough to share that they haven't fully adopted it are the ones who are actually looking at implementing the right use cases and really impacting getting in the right impact from AI. There's obviously a huge pressure in boardrooms and organizations across the globe, and this is just not Middle East. We are not any different from any of the leading geographies across the globe. There is immense pressure from shareholder groups, from stakeholders, in terms of uh, getting validated AI use cases implemented, driving efficiency in processes, driving excellent customer service, using AI at the front and center, which I'm sure the other panelists would also agree. I mean, that's really front and center of the conversation. But I think what's really important is there's a lot of AI whitewashing which also happens in terms of just
Yeah.
implementing AI for the sake of AI. I mean, using ChatGPT to write an email does not mean I fully implemented AI in my organization. There are enough and more use cases across the globe where AI can effectively reinvent the way work is done. From a challenge perspective, I think that's challenge number one. I think the
Mm-hmm.
real understanding of AI does not exist very clearly across senior leaders, across people. Um, ChatGPT only is not AI. I just wanted to call that out because people may think just using that as AI. It's definitely not the case. Second challenge is really finding uh, evidenced use cases where AI can be implemented and really try and track and drive the ROI from there. And the third risk is I would call it AI latency or kind of thinking that a small just buy something with an AI element in it and then you're done. The
Yeah.
pace scale is evolving so fast. I think people have to really remain open to changes, open to new ideas, open to new ways of working. So I think it's this openness and this constant feeling that this is not the end all of what we are doing. There is a lot more which is to come, and really creating that hunger within the organization, right from the top leadership to the people, right in the front lines. That whatever we are doing today will be reinvented. It can be done better. It can be done faster. It can be done cheaper. So I think really kind of getting that culture within that organization of this positive understanding that AI is here to help and we need to reinvent what we are doing currently.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Surit, for kind of bringing very honest and authentic observations and challenges here, and also sharing some of the practices that can help build the culture of AI here. I'm glad you also talked about having use cases in the organization and starting from there. One of the second barriers that you actually see on the slide is lack of the proven use cases that is limiting the organizations to use AI to its full potential. So, Inshara, I would love to ask you if you have seen any use cases building in your organization and your peer organizations that you may want to talk about with our audience.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, with the adoption of AI, the thing is, AI is really, it goes really beyond the traditional requirements, right? So, it's literally a new subject and it's very difficult to comprehend. And you're working with people from different, multi-generational. Like if you have Gen X, Gen Alpha, Gen Z, everyone literally adopts it very differently. I think with our organization, when we looked at the functions, we needed to understand what were the business requirement for each function and how can this support. So we're coming in terms of the how can we support you with AI. When we looked at HR, for example, and I've given this example before, um, admin work like writing in your goal setting, where we have introduced feedback 360 to all of our employees because that is also one of our DNA in our culture. These type of activities were quite, people would say mundane. It would create delays. We would like try to encourage people to have that feedback culture, but to be sitting there on your PC trying to figure out stuff, something as small as that, or make look like mundane, can actually cause a bit of anxiety, or can be looked like something I don't have the time to do. So with how we address this is we created a framework where AI can actually support and adding recommendation suggestion, helping rewrite your feedback. So that actually became very cost effective. So it was literally about looking at how we can support our staff. We also introduced an application where you can practice having feedback one-to-one, people leader support. So you're practicing with AI, you and putting in, okay, this employee is very difficult, da da da. You're putting your criteria, and then you have that practice with AI. Some things that we've never had before, and that's in the comfort of your own office, or or by yourself. So when you understand what is the business want, or what is the outcome that you desire, you'll be able to support staff. And then it's also not just about the adoption part. I think what happens after. So what happens with organizations, sometimes we try to do something, we're really excited, and we make a huge, commercial or promotional, you know, a big deal out of it, but then it kind of stops, it kind of trickles down. So where's the consistency? There has to be a plan where this now starts to be integrated into how you work. So I think it's all about having that alignment and also projecting, moving forward, how will this impact? It shouldn't just be a one-time exercise, it should be embedded into the everyday work.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that example and really emphasizing on the strategy here. I think that the HR technology strategy and the people strategy should go hand in hand here and really, figure out a way to see how it is truly aligned with the business strategy and how, even if it's changing, every now and then, it needs to be perpetually aligned. So talking about that, what we tried to see actually was, what do the tech HR investments look like in the next 12 months? And if we see the next slide, we actually see that over 57% of HR tech partners and leaders in the Middle East geography said that it's going to increase by 10 to 25%, which is a big number. And it's actually much more positive, I would like to say, is than the SCA India and the global responses that we have received. Now, what we also observed is that some of the clear contributors to these are the hybrid technology strategy, which means your core HR integrated systems are going to be the unified ones, but more and more HR leaders are also looking forward to having the specialized point solutions as well, because they want the innovative systems with deeper configurations and capability to tackle the challenges, new age challenges that they are that they are facing, which is driving the technology demands, right? But with the investments comes a lot of responsibility as well. In the next slide, we did a comparative analysis of the tech HR implementation priorities. And if you actually see, HR leaders, over 60% of HR leaders highlighted that they are having to justify HR technologies, ROI, and value realization. So, greater innovation investments come with greater ROI demands from our businesses, and they are going to, continue to increase in 2026 as well. My question to you is, while this is a good news that tech investments are increasing to aid HR change management processes, is there a pressure on HR leaders to measure and justify that ROI? And if so, what steps are you taking in your organization to ensure these investments can be maximized? Ali, would love to learn from you.
Yeah. Let me just first give you a broader perspective in the Middle East and especially in the GCC region. The typical challenge of organization in this region is that they have a pressure for scalability to scale up their business and at the same time to transform. So these two are going together. So so it makes it pressure the organization to go and invest in the technologies here, because this is what the pressure is going on right now there. But I think the best way what mature organizations are doing is that whenever they are uh, proposing or they wanted to go for any technology, they used to build a proper business case where they are not focusing on the output of the technology, but also the outcome of the technologies here. So let me say the success statement would be for, let's say, not so mature organization would be like we were able to streamline the process, right? With the adoption of the technology. But the mature organization would rather say we were able to retain the managers for the critical functions by proactively identifying certain risk areas through predictive analytics or through predictive like that. So these kind of success statement should be incorporated there. So I have seen this in the mature organizations like big giants in these regions, they who are doing that here. So my recommendation every time whenever I speak to anyone and give advice, I say that, go beyond the features of the technology. It's
Mm-hmm.
more about the adoption side of the technology or the business rationale of the technology. So business comes first, then the technology. So business
Right.
priority first there. So don't take it the otherwise there. You take technology for the sake of technology. As Shurit said last time, that technology for the sake of technology will never work there. So there should be a stronger business rationale behind it.
Yep. Thank you so much. I think there's a great emphasis on meeting the business requirements and in fact talent needs as well. I think keeping talent challenges at the core, the pain points at the core of solution building would really help us maximize the technology. That's what is one of the observations that has come out as well. So, Reed, what's your point of view on this? How can leaders ensure the tech investments can be maximized with increased adoption?
Yeah, I think, and Ali kind of hit the nail on its head previously. I think maximizing the return that we are getting from the investment comes down to first realizing and understanding what is the problem that we are trying to solve. Is it an efficiency problem? Is it a service problem? Is it an optimization problem? So I think really defining that particular problem statement is front and center. Technology should be implemented to solve a problem, not for the sake of implementing a technology because everybody else down the road is doing exactly the same thing. So, and I mean, once we really are clear about what is the problem that we're trying to solve, it just becomes much easier to prove an ROI or otherwise, go back and say to the people, approving the investment that, look, this is not working, or is this really working and solving the problem that we are looking at. Some simple use cases, I think, since it's an HR forum, a lot of times we come back to the role of HR. In this day and age, gone are the days where we would need to wait for a customer service representative to solve a query or a problem for us. Similarly, why should we wait for HR managers to be solving policy related questions or problems for us? Why can't it be done by a chatbot? Why can't it be done by an automated response? Why are I think really challenging some of the classical models where a human intervention is required is something which is it needs to be front and center for most use cases, and that's the problem that we need to solve. We need to augment human interaction through AI use cases and really see how can we be more effective. It's not about taking the human away from the interaction, but
Yeah.
augmenting and really looking at how can people, as I previously said, do the same things quicker, faster, cheaper, using these technologies, and then really drive and improve the ROI point in case. So again, go back to really clarifying what is the use case, clarifying the problem that we're trying to solve, and then measure the impact that the technology has had on it.
Yeah, yeah, great. Thank you so much. Um, Apart from obviously putting the use case, the business challenge at the center of the problem and really trying to solve it, one more potential observation and angle we observed that came out into our report is a partnership between HR leaders and HR tech partners, and how that can really help increase the value realization from the technology. So when we try to evaluate the top technology requirements that HR leaders have versus what HR tech partners believe that HR tech leaders in the Middle East need, we found a major evaluation misalignment between the buyers and the builders here, as you can see it on the screen. The only, if you see on the right hand side, top right, ability to measure business impact is the only top must have criteria where we see an alignment between the both. For the rest, the other four must-have areas for HR leaders are very different from what HR tech partners believe it to be. So this misalignment is probably causing us the maximization of the ROI here, as we see the selection parameters that the two think are quite different, and they can limit the value realization. According to you, Inshara, why do you see this gap is emerging, and what can leaders do to better address this gap?
I think I believe the misalignment between the HR tech selection and the realized values often arises because organizations are very much under pressure to move quickly. They need to demonstrate progress. And sometimes, as a result, the speed can take precedence over the strategic alignments. Also, we have to have ownership, right? So, just a common, if you have a project management and you teach it as a project, you have to have subject matter experts coming from different fields, coming from different business functions. Common challenges that we see is there's like limited alignment between HR, between IT, between the procurement, between business stakeholders. And there's also like, okay, this is an HR problem, this is an IT problem. Unless there is an alignment, there will be gaps when it comes to when we see this the parameters itself. Also, the strong governance, when you look at cross-functional alignment, HR technology decision must be treated as an enterprise transformation initiatives, with clear expectations, clear ownership, with success matrix. What does success look like? What are the KPIs? The accountability. It should also be a very realistic timeline. I think very often enough, we don't deliver on realistic timelines. So what the business expectation is versus what we can deliver usually also causes a misalignment. So I think that's like, in my opinion, one of the reasons, like the value is lost when the tools are selected in isolation from the strategy itself.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I think that goes back to Ali and Surhit's point on keeping business priority, business challenge at the core of it, and then also, as a start to end journey, don't just identify the problem, but identify how you're
Yeah.
going to measure it as well. Like you mentioned, have business KPIs that have a direct impact to see the value. What's your point of view, Surhit? How do you think HR tech partners can really partner well with the HR leaders to help them achieve and enable them to achieve business outcomes?
Yeah, again, I think it's the same string in terms of really partnering with organizations to enable their business strategy. I think that's front and center. It's not an HR solution that we're trying looking at a solution for. It would be how is it really enabling the business. I think one of the key requirements for any technology partner today would be rapid enablement, kind of ensuring that we can rapidly deploy some of the technologies that's available in the market. So to really simplify the overall deployment mechanism, and really ensure that there are pilots or use cases which are implemented beforehand to kind of test and dip our toes in it and check whether it's delivering the right solution that we would want to, and then constantly look at upgrades, because as with any technology partner, I think we cannot remain static towards what has been implemented. So what we would really look at would be technology partners who are constantly looking at the overall upgrades, the developments that's happening globally, and really implemented within their solution.
Thank you, Surit, for adding on to that. Ali, any last thoughts on what you're seeing as our findings, and how would you, what are your thoughts on this?
Uh, Actually, maybe I have a little different takes from
Yeah.
and Inshira also there. I see this as a healthy gap, by the way, because if you see the HR priorities for tech evaluation, you see that they are seeing this from the business and from the people's perspective. while the HR tech leader, they are seeing it from a process and the technology perspective there. So you can see unified integrated ecosystem configuration and customization. But the good thing is that both of them, both group of people, they agree on the ability to measure the business impact. So I think it's a healthy gap, but moving forward from there is that they both these HR leaders and HR tech leaders need to be aligned together before approaching or before making any decision for any investment in the technology. So all perspectives are taken into consideration. If we have best let's say unified integrated ecosystem or customization and everything, but there is no change management adoption support and there is no data security and other things there, that project might fail. So I see as a healthy gap, by the way, that from
Yeah,
this
yeah.
analysis.
Great observation, Ali. And I think, like you mentioned, that it would be a very disintegrated approach if we follow one and not the other. So, what we actually also, our hypothesis was that all of the areas that we see at the bottom right, the configurabilities, self service, mobile access, and integrated system, those are priorities for HR leaders, but sort of obvious priorities as part of the process, and the business priorities, the outcomes that they want to drive, a secure data platform, change management, cost optimizations are the big ones that they really is a deal breaker for them, which HR tech partners should learn in order to better partner with the leaders here. So as we conclude our research, these were some of the big findings that we found. Again, for our listeners, you can read the whole comprehensive report and find a few other gaps that we identified in the full report. But while we conclude, there are three key imperatives for HR leaders we identified to address some of the gaps that we observed, and observations that Surhit, Ali, and Inshara also mentioned. And these imperatives are building data fluency and AI readiness as an HR capability mandate in 2026, shifting from just tech deployment or implementation to really outcome focused selection that we just spoke about, and also full adoption for increased return on investment, and also making strategic workforce planning really core to HR's agenda in the coming year, which is going to go big. So, my question to the three of you, and as last thoughts, I would love to learn from you based on your experience. Which one of these three, or our HR leaders in the Middle East region, are likely to miss out on, and there should be a watch out? And what, if you were to prioritize one of those in 2026 for leaders, what would that be? And we'll start with you, Inshara.
Thank you. Sorry, I was on mute. Based on experience, I think leadership capability is the imperative that most likely to be missed. Companies often prioritize, frameworks, policies, or systems because they are tangible, they're measurable. The thing is, with leadership behaviors, they're very hard to quantify. However, without capable leaders, even like the biggest talent strategies will struggle to deliver, I think, on results. Leaders must be equipped to lead hybrid teams. They have to be equipped to manage complexity, support well-being, and also sustain like a strong and conduct culture. So, it's, for example, as banks in Oman continue to transform, and I'll give Oman, the banks in Oman as an example, leadership capability is very critical in managing, regulatory expectations, managing the digital change and talent development. So HR transformation, I think, is not sustainable without the leadership transformation.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Inshara. Ali?
Yes, from these three imperatives, one is building data fluency and AI readiness, second is about the tech deployment and ROI, and third is about the workforce planning and excellence. So I want to go a little further from what Inshira said, leadership development. I fully agree with this thing there. But let me just go back to our previous discussion when we were talking about skill sets or skilled
Mhm.
audit. And what Shurit rightly said, that it should be linked with the strategy, not only the strategy, but also the dynamics of the industry, how it's changing. So the problem with workforce planning in this region, most of the organization that are not mature, that they do workforce planning as a one-off exercise in a year. I think the things are dramatically changing in the market, and I think this exercise should be dynamic, should be more scenario based exercise there. So, and that also informs our skills framework also that needs to be done here. I don't know. Most of people probably from Saudi Arabia, they know that in Saudi Arabia there is a national skills framework that is being
Mhm.
know, being worked on there for different industry there, and the whole idea is that how to align our workforce planning based on those skills that are very dynamic, based on the industry changes or transformation going on in the industry or in the company, and also linked with the organizational strategy.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ali, and great you close the loop on the dynamic skills as well, and how it's a core part of workforce planning. Loved hearing that from you. Surhit?
Yeah, for me, I mean, if there was an imperative which could combine one and two, probably that's something which is
Mm-hmm.
extremely important. I think data fluency is extremely important. That's the first step that's required in terms of having a very data-driven mindset and really leading the way when it comes to AI deployment, AI readiness. At times, minor changes in ways of working and how we are using data can really ensure that we can build and prove use cases for AI deployment. So that's really I think one of the key first steps, and not just for HR but the entire leadership team, as Inshara as well mentioned. I mean, the entire leadership team needs to be first very strong proponents, but at the same time be literate in these areas to really drive these use cases across the organization. And secondly, I mean, just being very outcome focused, and this is not just for investments within technology and HR, but I think being very outcomes focused in whatever we do, what gets tracked and measured gets delivered. And that's really one of the key pillars in the way decisions should be taken and then evaluated whether they're delivering the right results. So I think that's really the key. Finally, I think overall focusing on a mindset of change within the organization, really creating that hunger within the organization that if people don't change, they will get changed. Uh, Technologies have come and they've changed and they've evolved. The way work was done 200 years ago was done when computers were invented, and the same thing's happening now. So either we evolve and keep pace with what's happening, or really be left out in this overall race. So yeah, that would be the final kind of concluding thoughts on that.
Thank you so much, Surit. Loved your concluding thought on the change mindset, building a change mindset. I think that's one of the key things that the whole organization, especially leaders, need, as these changes are going to be more and more ongoing and frequent. So, to come out of the stage of decision paralysis, it's important that we continuously build the change mindset. I would love to thank all three of you for sharing your candid thoughts on the region's challenges, priorities, and sharing the best practices that your organization and others in the region are developing around these some of these findings. I hope you find the report helpful, and to all our listeners as well. In order to get access to this report, you can scan this QR code or see the link in the comment section. And if you have any questions for our leaders, for us, feel free to reach out to us. Would love to answer that and incorporate that in the next version of this report as well. Thank you. As you build your new talent strategies, I hope these in some of these insights will really help you take the decisions. And thank you again to the three of you for joining us.
Thank you, Jeshta.
Thank you. Thank you, Chester.
Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure having a discussion with you, with all of you.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
rest of the day.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.